do you feel Disney is currently at with their sequel slate?
You kind of go down the list and there'll be one that I go, well, that one's, I'm a Frozen 2 fan and I'm a Ralph Breaks the Internet hater. Every time I watch it, I like it less. Moana 2 was just fine. Like it didn't do anything offensively bad. It didn't frustrate me the way Ralph Breaks the Internet did, but it also didn't do anything to distinguish itself or stand out. And so it just feels so inconsistent in the quality of what they deliver, whether you'll get, and even amongst people, like that, just a simple idea that even as you reference these movies, I might be a Frozen 2 defender, Rachel's a Ralph Breaks the Internet defender, like where there's not even like a consistency in it. And I think that's the big difference, is that you'll have these beloved original films that everyone's like, yeah, that was really good, that was really cool. And then the sequels, opinions are all over the place. And that's not good, that they can't figure out that formula on what that is. And I have a theory whenever we want to get to that. Yeah, it's just fascinating that after all this time, put out Moana 2, they're still struggling to figure out how do you recapture the magic.
We kind of talked about Pixar and DreamWorks and their sequel success. I don't know if you agree, Sean, but I'd say out of the three, DreamWorks has far and away the highest success rate when it comes to creating great sequels.
You look at the last 20 years and who has a bunch of franchises where they kept the quality up. DreamWorks has done that multiple times.
Well, I mean, they're the exception to the rule that most of their sequels are actually superior to the original films.
Part of what we discussed is that they kind of don't always get the formula right on their first go round. So their original films are a lot more hit and miss with DreamWorks animation. However, they seem to be able to lock in on something after that first one and either remedy what they didn't do as well in the first one, or just maybe even enhance what they've already done really well when it comes to things like Shrek 2 or How to Train Your Dragon.
I think part of the problem is that their original films in between the sequels are very weak. I think that overall hurts the reputation of Disney. And also, I mean, it does, I think, make a difference that these other studios are really pushing the medium of animation forward in a very exciting way. And even with their sequels. So when you get Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is so bold artistically and story-wise and everything else that it could be, I think that, at least for me, when Disney puts out a meh sequel, where in another phase, if this had happened in 2006, where it just wasn't a lot happening in the world of animation, then it might seem more significant, but it feels like such a weak effort in comparison to what the Spider-Verse people are doing, what some of these indie people are doing, some of these, that it's such an exciting time for the medium that even for sequels, even for franchise films, it's an exciting time. And Disney is just not stepping up to the plate.
I mean, in particular, you look at Moana 2, there's just nothing there that's fresh or exciting. It's like, if you like Moana, here's more of it. And we spent a bunch of money on it, so the water simulations look fantastic, but they're not interesting. We've had amazing looking water in animation for 10 years. Yeah. And so you're just kind of watch it. It's just more of something I have already seen before, that it's good enough, but good enough is not good enough when all these other studios are putting out things that are so interesting on an animation level, that we're talking about all the groundbreaking work everyone else is doing, and the premium studio of the last 85 years is not. I mean, I think that's a great point as to a big part of the problem. I think on just a conceptual level, to take things in a different direction, so much of what they do and what they're adapting originally to create these stories, they're often not designed to be franchises. When you're making The Lion King and it's sort of Hamlet or whatever, that's a very self-contained story that by the end of it, you're done. It's not obvious what the sequel is. You can tell more stories, but it's not obvious how you capture that whole experience. And you kind of go through some of these other ones where They're self-contained stories. We're adapting Rapunzel. Not that I'm aware of. There's not Rapunzel 2 out there that is equally famous as Rapunzel. And so you just have the one thing. And that's what so many of these are. And so immediately right there, they're not set up to create franchises where you look at How to Train Your Dragon. That's a series of books. Or inherent to the world of Shrek is we're taking all of these stories and pulling them together. So you can always just run it down any one of these other paths with one of these characters and do a sequel to it. Or even The Incredibles, there's more threats that can show up. There's more, it's pretty obvious what the sequel is. And then you kind of go, what's kind of a less impressive Pixar sequel, Finding Nemo or Finding Dory. Well, Finding Nemo is not a great foundation for a whole series of stories. Because he's found at the end. And so it's like, inherently you're just kind of, to capture the same vibe, you're just doing the same thing again in a way that you feel the rehash side to it, in a way that some of these Incredibles or How to Train Your Dragon or even Kung Fu Panda, it's more obvious where a sequel goes or how you play all of that out. The things that they're trying to do with their originals, you're not trying to set up a franchise to tell a whole set of stories.